much do you know about how the brain works? Do you think about your thinking? Do you think about the brain and how it works? And do you just wake up and do what you need to do every day? Okay, well, that's the way most people are. Most people don't think about their thinking. Most people just do whatever they need to do, and most people do whatever they need to do, and that's kind of the way they run and manage their life, okay? But maybe you could ask some questions about the brain and how the brain works. Would you be willing to do that? How the brain works, and what is the brain? How much does it weigh?
Near 2 kilos.
Yeah, a little less than 2 kilos. Some brains weigh a little bit more than others, but Einstein's brain was, basically had the same weight as my brain, or your brain, or anybody's brain, okay, or Yanukovych's brain, okay. But there's probably a little bit of difference between Einstein's brain and somebody else's brain, and that would have to do with the way the neurons connect to each other. Every neuron has these branches. It almost looks like the root of a tree, and these branches connect with other neurons. Now, what is a neuron?
Part of the part of the, I don't know.
Well, the
simplest part of the nervous system.
it is a cell. We would call the neuron a brain cell. And our brain is made up of about 200 billion neurons, okay? And these neurons, the brain neurons, are a little bit more complicated than other cells in the body because of the branching that we call it dendritic branching. And that at the end of these branches, there are connectors, and these connectors fire electrical charges that communicate with the other neurons. So there's a tremendous amount of electrical energy taking place in the brain. If you could get small enough, get into a tiny, tiny little spaceship, microscopic, and go through the brain, you would see tremendous electrical charges. Okay, and we know that because of the neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are these chemicals in the brain that cause these reactions, cause the cells to communicate with each other. We need those neurotransmitters to be in very good shape for the brain to work properly, okay? So the brain is made up of these of billions of neurons that are interconnected with each other. And the brain weighs, as you said, a little less than 2 kilos. In pounds, it would be about 3.5 pounds on average. What is the brain made up of? What does the brain consist of?
There are two hemispheres? What do you call this?
Well, 2 hemispheres. The brain has 2 hemispheres, and the hemispheres are part of the cortex. And these hemispheres are connected by something that, a membrane. It's called the corpus callosum. And it connects the 2 hemispheres of the brain. And the corpus callosum is actually a membrane that is a little bit larger in the woman's brain. There's more interactivity between the 2 hemispheres in a female brain than a male brain, okay? And that's one reason why perhaps women are more linguistically gifted, and they tend to communicate more. They tend to want to share their feelings more and talk more because of this interchange of information between the 2 hemispheres. Men tend to be a little bit more concrete. There's not this intense flow of information going back and forth between the 2 hemispheres of the brain. So as a woman, you're probably more gifted linguistically, and you could probably learn languages better, okay? You probably want to talk more and share your feelings and emotions more than men. That doesn't say that all men are not gifted linguistically, but a woman's brain is better designed for communication. And when I look at couples and marital problems, I often find that it's the woman that wants to communicate and the man that doesn't, and that is a big problem in marriages. And it's partly the way that the male and female brains are connected, created, okay, designed. What else can you tell me about the brain? It's made up of a lot of neurons, billions of them, but what is the brain actually made of? There's two primary ingredients to the brain.
It's like gray substance.
It's a gray substance, but what does that gray substance consist of? It's spongy, it's a tissue, but what is it actually, if you were to look at it and what are the ingredients of that brain? What does it mostly consist of? Our brain is mostly water and fat, okay? There's not a whole lot of blood circulating in the brain, okay? There are membranes and there is blood flowing through the brain, of course, but it's mostly tissue that is made up of fat and water. And so if the brain is made up of fat and water, what does that tell you about how to take care of the brain?
To drink more water?
You should drink a lot of water. Yeah, drinking water is very good for your brain. It's very good for other parts of your body as well, but drinking water is very good for the brain.
Fresh air.
Fresh air, and fresh air basically helps with blood flow. If you have more oxygen to the brain, the blood circulation to the brain is better, and what you want is better circulation, more blood circulation to the brain, yeah. And oxygen does that. Now, we've got people coming in, I'm not sure who you guys are. Are you, anyway, do you guys know me? I don't know if you were here last week or not, but we will,
I was here last week, but I'm the transfer of Arthur.
okay, so that's fine, everybody's welcome.
Yep.
And what we're gonna do, guys, hopefully I'll be able to put together a slideshow. And, but right now we're basically gonna talk about how we think, and obviously, we're gonna put together the projector now. Ian, maybe we should turn the camera off for a bit, or is it running? And then we can turn it back on when we... Okay. The way that I run these classes is very interactive. You can ask me questions anytime you want to ask me questions. If you don't know a word, then just let me know, okay? Now let's go back to the brain and sugar. Yes, sugar is very important for the brain. The brain actually is unique in the sense that we actually burn a lot of calories when we think. And if you ever go outside and see a man with not a lot of hair on his head, you're going to see steam coming out of his head because the brain is actually burning a lot of calories. In fact, about 70% of all calories that we burn are from thinking. So it takes a lot of energy to think. And so doing crossword puzzles or doing a lot of thinking, learning a foreign language, in theory, will help you lose weight and burn calories, okay? Because your brain does need a lot of energy to operate properly, and of course it burns a lot of sugar, and if we don't get the right amount of sugar in our brain, then we could go into a coma. Diabetics have that problem. I knew a diabetic in Kiev, and he was actually attending one of my discussions, and he started asking me very bizarre questions during the discussion, almost like he was drunk, almost like he was on drugs. And I realized that he was actually going through a coma. Come on in. He was actually going through some kind of coma or diabetic seizure. And I had to give him, what would I give him in that case? What did I need to give this guy to come out of his problem? I needed to give him what? Sugar. I had a Snicker bar in my bag. I pulled the Snicker bar out and literally stuck it into his mouth, and I forced him to chew on the Snicker, and within a few minutes of swallowing the Snicker bar, he started to come out of his diabetic seizure. But had I not been there, and I had not given him that sugar, he would have probably had some serious, serious problems that could have led to his death. So a diabetic has to always have a little sugar on hand, just in case they start slipping into a diabetic coma, okay? So we're going to take care of the brain, and how else are we going to take care of our brain? What else can we do to take care of our brain? We talked about drinking a lot of water, and since the brain is made up of fat, what would be something good to eat? Come on, what is a Ukrainian delicacy?
Salt.
Salo. Actually, salo may not be that great for the heart, but a little bit of salo is actually pretty good for the brain. But the best
Fish.
is fish. Yeah, fish oil. And I know that Ukrainians typically don't take things like fish oil, but if you eat salmon every day, and that's probably going to not only help you think better, but it may help prevent something like Alzheimer's. Okay, do you guys know what Alzheimer's is? Did you forget what Alzheimer's is? Did somebody forget what it is? I think I forgot what it is. Actually, that's a bad joke. Alzheimer's is a disease that affects memory, usually in older people, okay? And they say that eating fish and consuming fish oil over the course of your lifetime will delay the onset of Alzheimer's, okay? And by the way, your brain works the best at about your age, okay? In fact, actually when you're younger is the best time to learn languages. If you're just starting to learn English now, it's going to be a little bit harder. If you start when you're very young, your brain is more wide open, and it's much easier to learn a foreign language when you're 3, 4, and 5 years old. For somebody in my age group to learn Russian would require a tremendous amount of mental concentration, okay? Because my brain is kind of already hardwired in English, and it's a little harder to learn a foreign language really well, okay? So the earlier, come on Ed, the earlier you learn a foreign language, the better, okay? Your brain is also better able to focus and concentrate when you're younger, okay? And another thing you probably should do, the brain is actually very fragile. And that's the reason we have a very hard skull. Our skull is actually protecting our brain. And what we don't want to do is have any kind of head trauma. But every day in Ukraine, kids are doing something that's probably not very good for their brain. And what would it be?
Smoke.
Well, smoking is not good for your brain. It's certainly not good when you're pregnant to smoke, because we know that women who smoke a lot during pregnancy, their fetus does not get as much oxygen as required, okay? So you may damage the brain of your fetus. But can you think of something that kids do here, adults do, a lot of Ukrainian boys do, and some Ukrainian girls do, that might not be very good for your brain?
Drinking?
What?
Drinking.
Drinking large amounts of alcohol is definitely not good for your brain. They have looked at the brains of alcoholics, and that process is called an autopsy, where they will actually look at the brain of a person who's been using alcohol their whole life, and they will see that the brain of an alcoholic, upon death, is about 20% smaller than somebody that's a non-alcoholic. And there is a disease called alcohol-induced dementia. Now, dementia is a disease that affects memory and blood circulation to the brain. But to make the point here that alcohol is definitely in large quantities not good for the brain. It kills brain cells, and that's one of the reasons why people lose hand-eye coordination when they've been drinking, okay? Because brain cells are actually being wiped out, okay? But there's something else that young people do here that's really not healthy for the brain. And it's a sport. What sport? There's actually 2 sports that are probably very bad for the brain. Boxing is very bad. And if you look at some boxers who are a little bit old now, like Muhammad Ali, he's got Parkinson's. And that's probably because he's been hit so many times in the head And unfortunately, although the Klitschkos seem to be very bright, intelligent men, they are very at risk for dementia, Alzheimer's as they get older because they've taken so many blows to the head. It's not good. But what else could cause a little fissure on your brain? If you're hit with this thing enough times, what else could cause problems? Soccer ball. Actually, it's not good to use your head as a club on a soccer ball. Imagine how fast those balls are traveling and you're using your head to hit that ball. Every time you do that, you jar your brain just a little bit. It's going to cause some problems. They've looked at Italian soccer players that played soccer their whole life, and they're finding when they do these studies, when these players are in their 60s and 70s, that they don't score very well on certain academic tests. Their memories are not as good, their comprehension is not as good, and so we know that there seems to be some brain damage on individuals that played soccer throughout their life and professionally, and we probably need to take a look at that. American football is also notorious for that. We're finding that people who played American football, where that's a collision contact sport, that they have high rates of Parkinson's, dementia, early onsets of Alzheimer's. So you want to protect your brain. Your skull can do a pretty good job of that, but it doesn't do a perfect job. You don't want to abuse it with sports that bang your head, okay? So we want to feed our brain with the right foods. We want to drink a lot of water. We want to avoid smoking and alcohol. We don't want to use our head as a club on a soccer ball if possible, but of course, if you're playing soccer, it's absolutely necessary. So these are important concepts in trying to, take care of your brain if possible, okay? And again, my feeling has always been that the brain is the center of our universe. It's the most important thing any of us have. Without a healthy brain, we are lost, we're hopeless. We need a healthy brain to function in this world. It's a complex world we live in with all kinds of problems, and we can't solve those problems if our brain does not work well. And our brain is very sensitive. It's full of chemicals and neuropeptides and neurotransmitters, and if these things get a little bit out of balance, then we not only don't think straight, but we have problems with depression and anxiety and things like that. So keeping your brain healthy is the best thing that you can do to increase your happiness levels and your overall productivity in life, okay? So enough said about that. I'm going to keep moving down here. So we talked about the brain as a muscle and that thinking is a skill, and unfortunately for the people that might be watching this, they can't see the overheads. But thinking is probably a skill that not all of us have mastered well, and yet it is a highly important skill. And we can improve our thinking by doing certain things, okay? Now, one concept in thinking is looking at this photo, and when we look at critical thinking, one of the concepts is that there's oftentimes, when we look at something, there may be two possibilities or more. And one of the things that critical thinkers do is they understand that two people could be looking at the same image and see two very different things. So I want you guys to tell me what you see in this photo.
Old man.
You see an old man. What?
But it could be
Old
in
man.
nature or something like that.
A couple of guy and girl who kiss each other.
All right, yeah, so now you see the old man, and you see two
Yeah,
people
but
kissing.
first I saw the old guy.
Yeah, and most people, actually, most people see the old man first. Come on in. Most people see the old man first, and they don't see the people kissing. All right, and some people cannot see the people kissing at all. Does anybody not see the people kissing? Does anybody not see those kissing people?
No, I can't see the...
Yeah, you know, one of the problems is once you get locked in, once you start looking at something, it's hard to see something else. So the old man is obvious. It's obvious that you can see the old man, but some individuals cannot see the two people kissing, right? Now, who cannot see the two people kissing?
And you cannot.
What? No, we got one honest person here.
I can.
You can't, all right? You can't. Anybody else? I'm sure there are other people. Can you guys see the people kissing?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, okay, what's happening here is our brain gets focused in on one thing and can't see the other thing. This guy has a particularly flexible brain, okay? But a lot of people, when they get locked in on something, they can't see the alternative. And part of critical thinking is to understand that two people can see the same situation, but they can see it very differently. Now, the question is, how do we, you can see the arrow, right? This is the head of the man kissing the girl who's right here. Now their lips are coming together right there. Their lips are coming together right there. And their arms are coming together right here. Do you want to demonstrate that with her? No, I'm sorry. Okay.
Maybe later.
Maybe later. Okay. Now do you guys see it? Now does everybody see it? Now be honest with me. Everybody sees it, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the point in this exercise is, well, what is the point? The point is that two people can see the same thing, and they can see it very differently. I often use this particular image when individuals might have a conflict with each other. I'd say, okay, one of you sees it this way, one of you sees it that way. Who's right? Both of them could be right. So both people could see the same situation, they could see it totally different, but both be right. And I think that is one of the things that you need to keep in mind when we talk about critical thinking, is that our point of view could be wrong, or it could, and their point of view could be right. And so we always have to put ourselves in the position of the other person. They have a right to their own opinion and feelings. And what they see and what they think is just as valid as what we see and what we think. And critical thinkers understand that basic concept, okay? That everybody can see the world in a way that's best for them, but we should allow that they have that chance to do that, okay? And I'm going to keep moving with these slides. And again, you guys can stop me at any point. What does thinking tell us? Well, basically, thinking tells us everything. Can you guys read that? Because it seems a little bit out of focus. Maybe that's a little bit better.
Can you do a full screen?
I can do a full screen if you want.
It's better.
And that's better, okay? I just have to figure out where, okay, I think I can, okay. Oh shit, sorry. If we can erase that, that would be fine. Okay, I hope that, okay, what comes first? I'm not sure I can go back, that's the problem. Well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, okay. What does thinking tell us? It tells us all these things, okay? What is important, what is unimportant, who our friends are, who are our enemies, and why they are our enemies. Sometimes people mix up. Sometimes our enemies are actually our friends, and vice versa, okay? So our thinking tells us everything about the world. And our brain is actually designed to make judgments. It's designed to process reality. All of us are processing reality all the time. We're trying to figure out what's going on in this very complex, difficult world, okay? And it is a complex world. There's a lot of stuff happening out there, and our brain is trying to figure it out. It's trying to process that information and tries to help us make good decisions, because we are also creatures of survival and we need to survive. So our brain is making these very quick decisions to help us survive and have a little bit better life, okay? All right, what comes first? A thought or a feeling or a behavior? What do you think comes first?
Feeling.
You think a feeling comes first? Some people would agree with you. I won't.
It depends on, I mean...
But where do our feelings come from? Don't our feelings come from our thoughts? I believe that every feeling comes from a thought. Okay? Every feeling comes from a thought. And we go from a thought to a feeling to maybe a behavior. Or we go from a thought to a feeling to another thought to another feeling. And we can go back and forth, okay? But I think that our thoughts control our feelings. When we have a thought about something, automatically that thought is going to produce some kind of feeling. And what is a feeling? How do we define a feeling? A feeling is something that happens inside of us, like an emotion. And most feelings do produce some minor physiological change inside of us. When we have a thought, there's a tiny little reaction in our brain that causes some feeling, and if it's an intense feeling, we can actually really feel it. What would be an example of a very intense feeling that some people have? What?
Happiness.
Happiness is very intense. I would call joy a very intense feeling.
Love.
Love can be an intense feeling. It can be extremely intense, but the problem with love is that love can be a positive emotion, but it can also be a negative emotion. It can be an unpleasant feeling. I know just as many people that have an unpleasant feeling when they're in love than a pleasant feeling. It's not always pleasant. It's just very, very strong. Anger is another very intense feeling, and that's something you're all going to have to deal with. You're all going to have to figure out how to manage your anger, because anger is the stupidest emotion possible. When we get angry, we get very stupid and we make very bad decisions. And you should make decisions when you're angry, and you should watch what you say when you're angry, okay? You know, I've never seen it like this, where each time I press it, I have to, okay. So, critical thinking is a problem-solving skill. It really starts with an observation, and we begin to process it. Obviously, part of critical thinking has to do with logic and seeing alternatives, okay? So in any given situation, what you want to do is look at your alternatives, okay? And that's probably one of the best ways to help a friend. If they come to you with a problem, you ask the person, all right, let's look at the alternatives here. What can you do and what can't you do in this situation? What are the consequences to each decision that you make, okay? So I always try to help a person see their options and alternatives in any situation. Does that make sense? Because I think when a person is having trouble, they don't see their options and alternatives. That's one of the reasons they get in trouble, is because they don't see all their possibilities. And so we want to try to point those out, okay? So this is the process of critical thinking, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but everything pretty much starts with an observation. And one of the things that we have to be aware of is that there's a difference between a fact and an opinion. What is the difference between a fact and an opinion?
Opinion is facts, but in your inside you.
Yeah, an opinion is something that is more subjective.
Yeah.
Would you like something to drink?
I'll take a coffee, if you don't mind.
Кава, чай, сік.
Yeah,
До соку обов'язково солодке щось. Як бонус. Окей? Бельгійський вафлі прийшли.
I mean, a cappuccino would be okay for me, yeah.
Смотри, Чорний зелений.
And you guys, you're welcome to ask me questions during these breaks here. Anybody have questions?
I have a question about your opinion with diabetes.
Yep.
Вафлі більше не буде порівняно.
Sugar is forbidden or not else?
Yeah, you know, the diabetic has to be very careful with sugar. Okay, they have to be very careful with sugar, and sometimes the problem is that their body isn't producing it, and they have to actually eat sugar in order to avoid a coma. Now typically insulin, if they are monitoring their insulin, that controls their blood sugar level. But some diabetics forget to take insulin, or they use alcohol that disrupts the insulin, and then they have to use sugar to avoid some kind of major problems. But yeah, diabetes is generally a problem with having too high of blood sugar levels, okay? And that's one of the things that you guys want to look at, is to keep an eye on your blood sugar levels, okay? But we need some sugar to function. Sugar provides energy, our brain needs energy, and if we don't get it, the brain can shut down. Okay, but, yeah. So, again, one of the things that we're going to be looking at in critical thinking is that we all want to make these quick, rapid decisions, and what we need to do is try to focus on the facts. We need to try to keep some of our emotions under control when we make decisions, and we need to we need to figure out where the source of our information is coming from, and we need to be aware of our personal biases as well, okay? Non-ego-based thought is simply that when we have too big an ego, and what do we mean by ego?
A great eye? I guess so.
Yes, right. If our ego is too big and we think too much of ourselves, and yeah, if we love our opinions too much, then we don't consider other people's opinions. So yeah, it's good to believe in yourself, but I think one of the qualities that I really like in people is the willingness to admit that you could be wrong. And that's one thing that I had to learn in order to be a better thinker, was that my thoughts could be wrong. That any thought that I have could be wrong. And sometimes I have to change my ideas. I have to say, look, I learned something today. I didn't know that. Or I thought this when it really was that. So we have to be open to being influenced by other people. We have to be open to other people's opinions, and that they may know more than we do. And what I have found with non-critical thinkers is they think they know all the answers. They think they know it all. And a person who thinks they know it all cannot learn. They're very stubborn in that way, and they will not learn new ideas. And so we always want to be open to new information. When we make a decision about something and we say, this is my opinion and that's it, then we close ourselves to any new information that might help us make a better decision. It's actually called confirmatory bias. So you want to stay flexible, you want to keep an open mind, you want to be available to new information. You might think that a person's not a very nice person. But if you get information that suggests that your opinion could be wrong about that person, then you need to say, look, maybe I was wrong. Maybe this is not a bad person. Maybe they're actually a pretty good person. And that's why first impressions can be dangerous. Because what is the biggest problem with first impressions?
You never know what happens next.
Yeah, they're resistant to change. When we make an opinion or decision about another person, we tend not to change that opinion of them. Even when new information comes available that suggests that our opinion is wrong. So we always want to be available to new information. We are scientists. All of us are investigators. We're investigating this world. We're trying to figure out what is true and what is not true. We can't do that if we are closed to new information. We've got to let that new information come to us, even though it's not what we want to hear. Okay? All right, we are all scientists. I love Lvov, and I'm going to prove it's a great city. All right? Well, I made that comment because if we want to prove something that we think is true, we are only going to look at the positive aspects of Lvov, right? We're only going to take all the things about Lvov that we like and forget anything that might be negative about the vote. And that's just the way people are. We grab onto an opinion and we only look at the things that support our decision. We don't take into consideration things that might not support our decision. Does that make sense? Are you guys picking up on that? It's a very simple concept, but people have a hard time following that, okay? Okay. And when we look at solutions, sometimes there are no good solutions, sometimes there are no easy solutions, sometimes we simply have to take the solution that is the lesser of two evils, okay? I was understanding that whatever we do could be wrong, okay? And I had to learn that as a psychologist and as a social worker, that I would have to make decisions, I'd have to make judgments on people, but it was important sometimes to acknowledge that I could be wrong, and sometimes I did make mistakes. And as long as you are open to the fact that you're not God, and none of us are God, God is probably the only one that really doesn't make mistakes. And I'm not sure there is a God to begin with, but none of us are God. We're all fallible. We all think in a crooked way. Some of us think more clearly than others, but none of us are perfect. And as long as we keep that in mind, as long as we tell ourselves that in any given situation, I could be wrong, then we're open to new information, and that's what's going to make us successful, okay? I'm going to move quickly on here. Qualities of good thinkers, and let me just throw that out to you. What are qualities of good thinkers? You don't have to necessarily look at this, but what would be some qualities of a good thinker? Somebody who thinks well.
He must analyze all facts around his.
All right, you make an analysis of the facts as best you can, as best you can. Sometimes we can't always do that, okay? But we try to not jump to quick conclusions, okay?
First to hear, but not only main information, also some peculiarities. I mean, something that we might not get, how to say, not even think that this is going to be a problem, some small things. I don't know, I mean, look at the whole situation.
Yeah, look at people in a holistic way, look at a situation in a holistic way. You know, what people often do is they jump to quick conclusions. Let's say you're walking down the street and somebody slips and falls. What is the first thought that might go through your mind? Let's say the guy's been singing a song and he slips and falls on the sidewalk. And maybe he's drunk. That's our first opinion, that he could be drunk. All right, he fell down, he could be drunk. And we might say, okay, he's a drunkard. All right? We don't stop and consider that it could be a number of things that caused him to fall. Maybe he slipped on the ice. Maybe there was a crack in the sidewalk. Okay, maybe his shoe fell apart. Maybe he's an epileptic person. Maybe he has some kind of disability. You know, there's many reasons why he could fall, but we tend to take the one that comes to our mind quickest. And like you said, he's a drunkard. Okay? Now we might be right, but there's a good chance we could be wrong. Because we're not going to take the time to, you know, look at his shoes or look at the sidewalk or see if there's ice there. We're not going to take the time to be scientists. And we can't in every situation. But we just have to be very careful when we make conclusions, because we're making conclusions all the time. We're making these split-second judgments all the time about all the things that are going on around us. Sometimes we're right and sometimes we're not. Okay? Other qualities of good thinkers. Other qualities of good thinkers.
You can ask another person's opinion. Because
Yeah,
as you said already, a different person can see different ways of situation.
Yeah, and I think what we would call that the blind spots. All of us have blind spots, psychological blind spots in our thinking. We don't see certain things. And sometimes by asking the person next to us, well, what do you think about that? They may have a completely different opinion because they may not be blinded. All of us kind of have a little tunnel vision. And so asking for somebody else's opinion can be very good. They may show us things that we never thought about. Okay, so getting a second opinion is good. And I find that true when I'm asking directions. If I get lost in Kiev, I ask somebody, okay, tell me where Podol is. And the person will say, well, it's that way. Well, I may go up to another person and say, well, where's Podol? And they may say this way. So a lot of times people will give you information because they think they need to know where Podol is. So sometimes it's really good to ask more than one person. And that's usually what I do when I ask for directions. I don't rely simply on one person because they could get it wrong. And most people are not going to say, well, I don't know. I'm from Kiev, but I don't know. They usually don't do that, okay? Because they don't want to look stupid in somebody else's eyes, okay? So getting opinions, getting feedback, letting other people tell you what they think is important. Because you got to listen to that information. The more information you get, the better position you are in to make a decision. And that's really what we want to do. We want to make good decisions about all the things that are going on around us. And we have to make a lot of decisions every day. You guys, I don't know, how many decisions do you think you made today already? Anybody have any idea how many decisions you made?
A huge number.
I've made 73 decisions today already. No, I'm just kidding. But I probably made a lot more than that. I probably made over 100 decisions. And a lot of those decisions I probably didn't even think about. I just, okay, let's go with it. Because a lot of our decisions we're making on automatic pilot. You know, cruise control in a car, a lot of times we're like on cruise control. We're doing all this stuff without really paying attention to why we're doing it. And so, being a critical thinker, you take the cruise control away. You start being more aware of all the decisions that you're making. Why did I do that? Why did I think that? It's always good to ask yourself, okay, why did I think that? Okay, or what am I thinking about now? Thinking about your thinking, okay? Other qualities of a good thinker. Somebody that doesn't talk too much, right? Like me. No, I'm talking too much. Any other qualities? Curiosity, inquisitiveness. I like curious people. I like people that ask questions. And I know sometimes in your society you're told not to ask questions. You're taught in school that the teacher knows the answer. But sometimes they don't.
But actually, like, it's bad when you don't know the answer. It's like, it's bad when you don't know the answer, and it's not bad to ask questions.
All right, well, if you don't know the answer, that's when you would ask a
I
question,
mean,
right?
yeah, but most of the times we are told that you are not allowed to ask questions.
All right, well, you know, professors a lot of times have big egos, all right? And they don't want to, sometimes they might answer the question in a way that isn't exactly accurate. But I think, I love students that ask questions. I really try to get students to ask me questions because it keeps me sharp. It makes me focus on what I need to do. And by the way, another quality of a good thinker is if someone asks you a question and you don't know the answer to it, it's okay to say, I don't know that answer. Don't give people a false answer. Don't tell them, well, this is the answer when you're not sure. It's okay not to know every answer, okay? I can't know everything there is to know about psychology. I can't, or social work, okay? But I still like questions anyway. And we should be asking questions. Especially if we're not sure. We should be asking questions all the time. And those questions are going to bring us closer to the truth. And the truth is really what we want. We're truth seekers. We want to know what's really happening. Not what we think is happening, but what is really happening, if we can. And of course, finding the truth is the hardest thing to find in this world. Okay? All right, I guess we're going to do a little puzzle here. Can you guys figure this one out? Critical thinkers think in a more abstract way. Okay, the question is, Sergei was looking at a photo. Someone asked him, whose picture are you looking at? He replied, I don't have any brother or sister, but this man's father is my father's son. So whose picture was Sergei looking at? Who?
Myself.
Himself.
Yes, himself.
No,
His grandfather?
no,
Father?
no. I don't have any brothers or sisters, but this man's father is my father's son.
Father.
No. It's Serge.
This is an abstract brain teaser, okay? This man's father is my father's son. Anybody in the audience? It would be who?
Step brother?
Nope. It's hard. This is why life is a little hard, because we get thrown these. It would be Sergei's son. Sergei's son. This man's father is my father's son. Okay?
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, don't think anything, you know, a lot of people don't get these. Okay, John flips the coin 5 times, and each time it comes up heads. You guys know a coin has a head side and a tail side, okay? So he flips it 5 times. The coin is 2-sided with a head on one side and a tail on the other. What are the chances of the coin coming up heads on the 6th flip?
50%.
He says 50%. Anybody want to disagree with that? The answer is 50%. It's always 50% whenever you flip a coin. It doesn't matter what happened before. It could have been 100 flips in a row where it turned up one side, which is, by the way, incredibly difficult. To flip a coin 100 times and for it to come up the same side 100 straight times would be astronomical. It would be like 1 trillion to 1. Okay? But whenever you flip a coin, forget what happened before. It's always 50%. Okay? All right, let's see what else. All right, now this one is going to drive you guys crazy. This will absolutely drive people crazy. Sergei and Olga are a married couple. They have 2 kids. One of them is a girl. Assume that the probability of each gender is 50%. And that's pretty much the way it is. What is the probability that the other child is also a girl? What is the probability that the other child...
50%.
You know, everybody says that. But believe me, there has been more research done on this question than almost any question. This is the law of probability. It's called the boy-girl paradox. The boy-girl paradox. And everybody says 50%, but that may not be the correct answer. I want you guys to go on the internet tonight and look at what they call the boy-girl paradox, or the Smith's 2 children paradox, and the answer might be quite different, okay? And they debate this question. This question is debated by scientists
Yeah,
because nobody can come up with the right answer. They all see it a little bit differently, all right? Let's say, for example, I'm walking down the street and I have my son with me. And everyone knows I have another child. What are the chances of my other child being a son? It's not 50%. The chances of me having 2 sons is about 38%. All right? So these are the things that we have to be careful in life, okay? Now, we go to this analogy.
Can I
Here,
say something?
yeah, go ahead.
For example, we had a lot of wars in our world before.
A lot of
Wars.
wars.
Yes.
Yes.
So if we had 50% of a guy
50% men.
and 50% to be a girl,
Uh-huh.
it would be about 95% girls on our planet and only 5% boys. So
Well, you know, it's funny. The thing is that every society has a little bit different percentage of male versus females. I believe that in most societies, it's closer to 51% of the population of the children being born are female. Now, the problem with the theory is that women do live longer. There's no question that there are more women in Ukraine than men. There's more women in Ukraine than men. But you're going to see a huge disparity when you get over 60, because the life expectancy for men in Ukraine is only 59 years old. I'm sorry to say it, it's very low. For women, it's 66. So women in Ukraine, as they do almost everywhere on this planet, women live 7 to 8 years longer than men. Okay? So you're going to see a lot of babushkas that unfortunately have lost their partners. And you probably know a lot of babushkas that are single. They live alone. They don't have a man, right? And part of the reason is because women simply live longer. Now, women live longer for different reasons. What would be a reason why women live longer?
The work we do is not so hard, probably.
Well, yeah, men work in more dangerous jobs. Men have more accidents at work. They work in factories, they're truck drivers, and they go to the army, and so you're going to have more fatalities in their occupation. Okay? Another reason why men don't live as long is...
Because we show emotions, it's okay for us to cry, but not to burn inside, like thinking that something bad is happening, just cry and everything gonna be alright.
Yeah, that's basically right. Women have less heart disease than men. It may be because they show their feelings more, men keep things inside. It may be because men, don't eat as well. They drink too much, they smoke more. I don't know what the smoking rates are between men and women here, but it's about the same. But men do drink more. And all those things might cause men to have shorter lifespans. But the point is that in virtually every society, women live 7 to 8 years longer than men. Okay, it's that way in America, it's that way in Japan, it's that way in Sweden. Okay? But there are more females born in Ukraine. I think 51% of all children that are born are female. So there's going to be about 2% more women than men. Okay, but that evens out after a while because men die earlier. Okay? So, but anyway, I want you guys to look at this boy-girl paradox. This is how they explain it, but this could be wrong. This is the way it was explained to me in the internet, but I'm not sure that this guy is right. He is basically saying that the answer is 1 out of 3. Whether that makes sense to you or not, we can't always believe what the internet tells us either. Okay? All right. A man is pushing a car down the street. And when he stops the car in front of a hotel, he knows he has lost all his money. What happened to the man's money? Now you guys can ask me questions, and I'll try to tell you what's going on here. A man is pushing a car down the street. And this is where you have to think abstractly. When he gets to a hotel, he realizes he has lost all his money. What happened to the man's money?
is there inside of the car?
The money is not inside the car.
Does somebody help him?
Nope, nobody's helping him. Now I'm not going to let this question drag on forever. But I want you guys, this is, critical thinkers oftentimes are able to get a little bit further away from what the obvious is, okay? You might want to ask questions about the man, about the car, about, your goal is to figure out the answer to this question by asking questions. But it might require a little bit more abstract thinking.
Did he have money before?
The man had money. Yes, he did have money.
Was he money twice?
What? He didn't drop it. He didn't drop it.
Did he pay somebody?
He had to pay somebody.
Is it his car?
Maybe it's
It is his
not
car.
Not right place for parking.
No, it's the right place for parking.
Maybe it's the wrong person.
Nope. He's pushing a car down the street.
So would we know that he had money and he paid somebody?
He paid somebody. That's what we know. That's another thing that you gotta look at. Look at what you know versus what you don't know. In any situation, what you know for sure and what do you not know. What is an assumption? What is fact? We know that the man had money and he paid somebody the money. But why did he have to pay the money? What is the man doing?
He's pushing the car so somebody was helping him, like he was paying for like.
He's
fuel
pushing the
or
car,
something.
but
He pushed in the
Was
car
it
because it was...
what?
Party? I don't know how to say. It was,
But
mm, I don't know the word.
Did you just swear?
What?
Did you just swear?
Swear?
Yeah, no, I thought I heard a swear word, but that's okay. It's
Uh,
acceptable, Peter.
Party, it's when you're,
it's like, do you?
like a deal.
Well, you're getting close.
Maybe that's not his car. It
It-
doesn't say.
It is his car. He's pushing a car. But you might want to ask a little bit about the car. What kind of car is it? What kind of hotel is it? What are they doing? They're doing something specific. Now, this could be a cultural thing too, because maybe this doesn't happen so much in Ukraine, but in America,
Renting the cars?
what?
Renting the cars?
He owns this car. Technically, it's his car, and he's pushing it down the street.
He pushed it down because it needs repairing.
No, the car is technically not broken.
Is it his work to
It's-
push a car?
Actually, it's the exact opposite of work. It's the exact opposite of work.
Is it his hobby?
Not exactly a hobby.
How do you
But-
call this person who parks the cars?
No, it's not the person that, that's not the no,
Is that some hotel for cars?
Nope. Maybe you can ask the color of the
He works
hotel.
in a hotel.
He doesn't work in the hotel.
A color of the hotel?
Yeah, that might help.
Is it yellow?
Nope.
Is
Is
it
it
white
white?
one?
Well, no.
Red?
I believe it's either red or green. But it's all red or all green. It's all red or all green, I forget which. You might ask about the car.
Maybe accident.
No, it's not an accident.
Is it the same color as the hotel?
Nope.
Is the car the hotel actually?
No. Good guess, but no.
Will it give us something to know if we guess the color of the car?
Well, I'll give you a hint. The color of the car is generally silver. And you have to, I just gave you a little bit of a hint.
We know that the hotel is green or red. The car is silver.
Well, how do you push a car down the street? First of all, have you guys ever seen a man pushing a car down the street?
No.
No, you haven't. So you guys, there's something wrong here, right? Have you ever seen a guy just pushing a car down the
Maybe
street?
it's the monument?
No.
He's not. He cannot push the car down the
He
street.
can't really push a real car down a real street.
Because it
So,
can't go on itself.
well, you can't really push a real car down a real street. So what are we talking about here? We're talking not about, what?
Not about the car?
It's not a usual car.
It's not a usual car. Now tell me what kind of car.
It's the Batman car?
No. It's not Batman.
Supernatural car.
Maybe you could ask about the approximate size of the car.
Maybe it's a toy car.
All right, you're getting close now. It is a toy car. He's pushing a toy car down the street.
When he push, he can
No.
Okay, one more time. When he pushed,
He gets to a hotel and realizes, oh my God, I've lost all my money. I must pay the owner of the hotel all my money.
He had
Maybe
some.
he
broke the hotel.
No,
He broke the
other
car.
no.
The hole.
Remember,
He had a hole
we
in the
said,
pocket.
you said toy car, right?
Yeah.
So if it's a toy car, what are we talking about? We're talking about maybe what?
The child.
No, this is a man.
The car for his child.
Maybe he's
There's real and there's,
a fairy tale.
no, it's not a fairy tale.
Short story.
No. Fast?
Maybe fairy helps him.
Can't stop the car in the front.
No, he had to stop. Okay, there's,
Is it a remote control?
no, not a remote control. It's not a real car, it's not a, so what else could it be? What might the man be doing?
It's not the real man.
It's a real man, but what might the man be doing?
Sitting on the knee.
No, what could a person be doing?
Selling
You say playing, right? Playing what? Playing a
Game.
game.
Oh.
What game might involve pushing something down the street where you have to pay money and might there be hotels and houses? What game might he be playing?
Monopoly.
Monopoly. Good job. You got it. Okay. The guy is playing Monopoly. All right. All right. Okay. I'm sorry to have to put you through this torture, but this is what we mean by thinking out of the box and being creative. That sometimes people tell you things that have nothing to do with reality. You might be very, very far off of reality. All right. A boy was at a carnival. A carnival is like a circus, all right? I want you to look at this very carefully, guys. And by the way, sometimes it takes people hours to figure out that Monopoly scenario, okay? All right. I want you guys to look at this one and try to figure it out. I have coffee, I think, but it doesn't matter. Maybe cappuccino or coffee, but I'll take whatever anybody wants. Coffee or cappuccino, it doesn't matter to me.
Just take whatever you order.
Yeah, you guys, I don't know what I ordered, but just give me anything. I'll take tea, I'll take coffee. Anybody order any alcohol? I can use some of that. Tea is fine.
What's wrong with mine?
Bad for your brain, right? Anybody have? Okay, I'll take tea then. Anybody want to give me tea?
Я замовлю свій пече.
Десь мав бути чорний.
Якийсь шикарний сервіс.
Ще якийсь що означаєш? I think they made a bigger cutout. We can take it.
Okay,
Нет.
whatever.
Якось
Can I,
лише
yeah, should I have some tea?
Yeah, I think we could work cutouts and they made like one bigger one.
All right, okay, whatever, just, yeah, sure, just, I'll take a little tea. Okay, you guys, I just want to do a couple more of these, okay?
Хто ще пиріг замовляв?
Не знаю чому. Може в когось два.
Everybody have the cups.
Ні, ні,
Okay. You guys, I'm going to read this to you, okay? A boy is at a carnival or circus. He went to a booth, a kiosk, where a man said to the boy, if I write your exact weight, in other words, how much you weigh, you know, 70, 80, 90 kilos, whatever, on this piece of paper, then you have to give me $50. But if I cannot, I will pay you $50. The boy looked around and saw no scale. A scale is something that weighs, okay? So he agrees, thinking no matter what the man writes, he will just say he weighs more or less. In the end, the boy ended up paying the man $50. How did the man win the bet? Okay, so the man says to the boy, if I can write your exact weight on a piece of paper, I get $50. If not, I pay you $50, okay? You want me to do that with anybody? You want me to do that with anybody? Anybody want to take the bet with me? I bet I can do it. I bet I can do it.
I don't have dollars.
Can I do it with you?
We can try.
All right. Because I know how to do this. Okay, you guys know the bet. Okay, the bet is if I write your exact weight on this paper,
Oh, it is a good question.
I will, okay, you have to pay me $50. All right?
You'll write all the weights, for
Okay.
example, from 50 to
No.
70.
No? All right, I need a piece of paper. Anybody? Any? Oh, okay. Okay. All right, so you guys know the bet. What's the bet? What is the bet? If I write your exact weight on this paper, then you have to give me $50, okay?
Yes.
All right, so,
She's weight for now, today.
all right,
Stand up, please.
how much do you weigh?
56.
56, okay. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't write 56, but I still win the bet.
Why?
Because I wrote
Exact way.
your exact weight, all right? You got it, right? Did you know that one? Okay. You gotta be careful in this world, okay? I should have done it with you, okay? All right? You gotta be careful, guys, okay? All right, I'm gonna maybe do one more, and then I'm gonna kind of switch gears a little bit here, okay?
Що означає був? Який у вас був?
Where did my tea go? Can I have some tea? Oh,
Jimmy, do you have tea? Because I ordered for you one.
well, I was gonna get coffee, but I can have tea too.
So, do you want
Maybe
coffee?
what-
Yeah, I would take one of those, yeah, possible. If it's okay?
This is latte. I
Check.
don't have latte.
What?
This is latte. Girls have latte.
That's fine, that's
Ось
fine.
там був.
Give me Jimmy straight latte.
Одна латина,
Одна
чай.
latte і одна чай.
Okay. Okay, guys, I want you to look at this one. Now, I kind of thought this one up myself, all right? All right, Sergei is an energetic violin player, it should be player, that is out of work. He has no job. His uncle offers him a job as a stockbroker. You know what a stockbroker is? You know, he works selling stocks. He knows nothing about stocks, and he hates his job. He has learned nothing new in 8 months he has worked for his uncle, so he's not very motivated. Yet after 8 months, he has 6 very satisfied customers who say he is never wrong. They are ready to invest all their money in whatever Sergei says. How did he do this? This guy, Sergey, knows nothing about the stock market. He hates his job. He's learned nothing new. And yet, after 8 months of working, there are 6 people that say, this guy's a genius. He's never wrong.
And how much people are there that say this guy is not genius? He's okay. Yes.
All right.
She got
You're going definitely in the right direction. All right, how did he do it? How did he do it? This is the way some people operate, by the way, and this is why we have to be careful in this world. Sergey starts out with 100 customers, okay? 100 clients. He tells 50% the stock market's going to go up. He tells 50% it's going to go down. So he's right how many times? He's right 50%. So now he's got 50 people that are very happy and 50 that are not. So he takes these 50 that are happy, he tells 25 it's going up again. He tells the other 25 it's going down. So now he's got how many people happy with him? 25. And he does it again 2 months later. He tells 12 people it's going up, and 13 it's going down. Now he's got 12 people that are happy with him. Okay? And then with those 12, he does the same trick again. Okay? It would be easy for me to tell you guys, why don't you go and talk with this company I worked at 3 years ago. They'll tell you what a great worker I am. I'm not going to tell you about all the companies I work for that would probably tell you I'm not a good worker. You know what I'm saying? The idea here is that we shouldn't believe everything that people say. And there are ways for even a person who's not very skilled to sometimes get it right. To sometimes do the right thing. It's just a matter of percentages. And we usually don't ask those questions. We take one person, and if that one person says, yeah, he's doing a great job, then we think he's a great worker, okay? There is a bias called the halo effect. Does anybody know what the halo effect is? It's a bias.
What do you mean by bias?
A bias is a preconceived idea about a situation. For example, a halo effect might be this. What we know is that, let's say tall men. If you're a tall man and you apply for a job, you're given preference because some people think that tall men are smarter than short men. That is what we call a bias. But the halo effect really is, if I'm a very good writer, if I write very well, and somebody likes my writing, they may also think that I'm a very good public speaker. They might also think that I'm a very good cook. Okay? They take one positive quality that a person has, and they associate it with other positive qualities. So if you're good in one thing, you must be good in other things. Okay? Now the opposite of that is the devil effect. If you're bad in one thing, it must mean you're bad in other things too. Okay? We have to get away from that thinking. We can't just assume that just because a person does one thing well, that they do other things well. Okay? That people do things well and people do things not very well. We're not going to be skilled in everything that we do. Okay? Those are biases. Okay? And I might get into that. But I'm going to go here for guidelines for good thinking. And again, we have to understand that some of the beliefs that we have, some of the thoughts that we have about the world are not very accurate. Can anybody here tell me something that you thought was true for many years, but then you realized wasn't true? Can you think of some situation where you changed your mind about something?
I thought that there is a song about like something. It was, you know, like I didn't know English, so it was in our something world, and I thought that this is a song about me, like, you know. It was in a plastic world, something like that. But I thought it sounds like my name.
In a material world? Madonna?
No, something like for years, like I wasn't studying English, I was in school.
Okay.
So for several years I was thinking that this is a song about me, about my name.
Okay,
And then I
getcha. Yeah.
get to the university, get to know what does mean linking in English language, and then I realized that Ina is not like my name, but just in a plastic
gotcha.
world, like that.
Yeah. Well, that happens a lot when you listen to music, where there are songs that I still don't know the exact lyrics to because you think they're saying one thing, but they're saying something totally different. And yeah, that's happened to me. The same thing has happened to me. You'll almost have to look at the lyrics written to really understand what they're saying. Because when you're singing something, you might get it wrong. Okay? So again, that would be an example where you think something is one way when it's really not. But can anybody tell me a belief that you had for a long time, you thought something was true, and then you realized after many years it wasn't?
For example, being adult is a perfect world.
Yeah, that being an adult, or maybe you thought that adults are all responsible, intelligent. That's what I thought when I was like your age or a little bit younger. I thought adults, you know, when I get to be adult, when I get to be a big man, when I start growing hair on my face, I'll be, you know, like all these other people. I'll be smart, I won't have problems, I'll know what to do. And I realized when I graduated from high school that adults have just as many problems, if not more, than kids. That some people never grow up. That some adults just stay childlike. And just because you're an adult does not mean you're mature. You know what I'm saying? Just because you're an adult doesn't mean you don't have big problems. Most adults do not manage their lives very well at all. Okay? So yeah, I think that's a hard lesson to learn because we want to rely on adults. We respect adults as teenagers and realize that they just as many problems as we have as kids. Other things that you may have changed your opinion about as you've gotten older?
I guess for me, I was like, when I was six, like until I was 6, I thought that swimming is the hard procedure. I don't know, like swimming is hard. And I was afraid of swimming. And then at the age of 7, I guess, I was put into a swimming pool and I tried, and I got the teacher that I was told how to swim. And now I'm like a good swimmer. So yeah, it was like from the long period of time from my childhood, I was afraid of that. And I thought this is hard and wrong. And now I'm like, I don't know, ready to swim. Like, I know how to do that.
Okay, so you just changed your belief. You've taken a fear. Sometimes we take our fears. Sometimes we're afraid of things. And we learn how to overcome our fears. Is there anything that somebody was really afraid of, maybe when you were younger, but now are not afraid of these things at all? What about the dark? Was anybody afraid of the dark as a child? And now you can't sleep? Right now I'm in a hostel where there's like glass on the top, and they can't turn the light off outside the hostel room, so there's always light coming into my hostel room. It's not this light, but and it's hard. I was almost afraid of the dark as a child, but now I love the dark, especially when I'm sleeping.
You know,
But,
in Doctor, there is nice picture which came to my mind that when it was said, like when I was a child, I was afraid of the dark, of the darkness. But then I realized that the room is mine and all the monsters are mine, and then like so I'm the like master of this of these monsters. So just change your perceive of this world.
right, it's called reframing, yeah, you take ownership, you take mastery over whatever you're afraid of, yeah. I just put an exercise, this might be what I think a critical thinker does is whatever belief you have, and I've been told, I guess that's mine. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. I was told when I came here to Lvov that a lot of people in Lvov felt that Ukrainian should be the language that is spoken here, and that you shouldn't speak Russian, right?
Not shouldn't, because maybe
It's,
who was born in Ukraine needed to know
Okay.
Ukrainian.
okay. Well, what I would ask you guys to do is whatever belief that you have about the world, that you are able to argue the opposite position. Okay? So you might be a person who is against abortion. You know what abortion is? Abortion is when you take the life of a fetus. Okay? An unborn fetus. We're not going to use the word child, okay, because it's very sensitive. But a lot of people in America are against abortion. All right? They're against, once there is conception, once life is created inside the woman, it's sacred and it should not be destroyed. Okay? But what I would argue is this: whatever position you have, you should be able to argue the opposite position. You should be able to know the reasons why somebody would have a very different position than you. If you cannot argue the opposite position, then your position is much weaker. Okay? So whatever opinion you have about anything, maybe you have an opinion that you shouldn't eat meat, that being a vegetarian is better. Well, you should be able to argue why some people like meat and why people eat meat, okay? And as long as you can do that, you will make sense and you'll be listening, okay? That's what I'm saying, all right? Okay. And again, this is the assumption that somebody else's viewpoint is just as valid as our viewpoint, okay? I spelled concepts wrong. Data. A lot of our beliefs come from the information that we get. Or where do you guys get your information? How do you know what is real? How do you know what is not real? Where do you get your
parents, friends, from books.
Do you believe everything your parents tell you?
No. But I compare my parents tell me, all I read and everything
Okay.
other people tell me.
Okay.
And it's my own opinion.
Should you always base your opinion on what you hear?
No, not only on my hearing.
Okay. Is it good to base our thinking on what we hear? How do you know what is true? All right. Are you more likely to believe something you see versus what you hear? If you see something, do you believe it? Do you hear it if you believe it? If you see something you don't...
in God, but we don't know. Or
You can't see God. Is that what you're
we
saying?
can't see Him, but we believe.
Okay, so what do we call that concept? If you can't see something, but you still believe it, what do we call that?
Faith.
Faith. It's called faith, yeah. And yes, there are things that we do believe in that we cannot see. All right? And that has to do with faith. But I think the concept I'd like to talk about now is where do we get our information? And how do we know that any information that we get is accurate or true? Now, a few days ago, one of my best friends called me up and said, did you know that Russia is no longer allowing Americans to adopt Russian children because 20 Russian children have been killed in the USA? Now that's what she told me. All right, and she says she got it right from the news. Now my response to her was, wait a second. Let's look at this situation a little bit more carefully. What else do we need to know before we can make a conclusion? Her conclusion was what? When she made this statement to me, what was her conclusion? What was she thinking?
It is forbidden to adopt children from Russia.
I think one of the, and that is a fact. I think Putin has now made it into law. You guys know that?
Yeah,
Putin has made it into law.
it was made into law like a week ago.
Yeah, okay. And so it is a law. The question is, what else would we need to know to figure out, when you use the word killed, what does that mean?
Somebody killed the child, like it was the reason, actually, the murder.
Murder, right. Murder and killed are synonymous here. All right? Would it have changed if she would have used the word died?
Yeah.
And actually, that would have been the more proper word to use in this situation, was died, not killed. Died is completely different than killed. Okay?
And there could be different reasons for death.
Right, and it's not always the result of intentional wrongdoing on the part of the adoptive parents. Now, there were a couple parents in America that did physically abuse these kids and did kill them, and they're being, they're in the court system, they're in the criminal justice system. But some of those 20 children were not murdered or killed. They died from extenuating circumstances. What else would we need to know in order to make an intelligent conclusion about this?
How did she die?
How did they die? Yeah, you'd have to look at each one of those cases. How did they die? Were they ill before they came to America? Okay? The article...
How many these children, how many children died in Russia?
How many children, or would these 20,
For the
how many of
same
these...
reasons?
Yeah, exactly. Or how many of these 20 would have died had they not gone to the United States? How many Russian children are adopted every year in the United States?
And what is the positive
Yeah.
How
side
many
of this?
children dies in America?
Yeah, well, actually, that is a problem, by the way. We do have, that's what I worked. I worked in Child Protective Services. And every year in the United States, there are several hundred children that are murdered by their parents. They're killed by their parents. And most of those children are very young. They're the victims of shaken baby syndrome, where a parent shakes their baby. And we have a lot of fatalities. We have several hundred children every year of various ages that are killed by their parents. Okay? The question is that this is also an emotional topic, because whenever you see the death of a child, there's something more emotional about it. Okay? All right?
The law that was written by President of Russia, it was after that message or before?
I don't know. That would be a good question. Okay. I think that my friend just picked it up on the news. Okay. And I really...
maybe it's his message was they prepare the social opinion for that law.
Right, and you know, sometimes, you know, my feeling was that this was Putin's way of saying, look, look, America's got problems too. America's got big problems, okay? Now, part of this was the result of one situation where there was a Russian child that was adopted by an American woman. Now, this child had a lot of problems that the woman was not told about. Had disabilities, had problematic behavior, and the people in Russia said, he's going to be fine. When this kid got to the States, he was nothing but trouble for this woman. And after several months, the woman basically said, I can't deal with this child. And she literally took the kid to the airport and put him on an airplane, tried to just get rid of him, tried to put him on an airplane and send him back to Russia. And that caused a lot of problems in the press. It was a big deal. And of course, the woman was saying, look, you didn't tell me about this kid's problems. He has a lot more problems than you told me about. So the adoption agencies in Russia were not honest with her. They make money when they get adoptions. For this kid to be adopted, they had to tell this woman that this kid didn't have as many problems as he did. Okay? That was what kind of started this whole thing about a year ago, and there have been other incidences since. But when we hear something or read something in the paper, we can't believe everything we hear.
Especially the Russian news.
Yeah, in fact, even in America, I don't believe a
No,
lot of what people
yeah,
say.
I know.
Do any of us, should
But
any of us believe what
Look
we
at
hear?
the American or European news and newspapers.
Mhm.
It's more democratical. It's more truthful. It's more
Yeah,
some of the statements and topic you can believe. Really, yeah, you should get the proof, get to like read some laws or some, I don't know, pictures.
Yeah.
But especially in Russian TV programs, TV shows that give us some truth, it could really, it has a lot of sides.
Yeah, well, almost everything that's on TV, almost every news program that's on TV has a bias. They are trying to paint something in a certain direction. And my belief, maybe I become very cynical in this world, but I tend not to believe anything people tell me anymore. And it's not because I think people are dishonest, but people tell me all kinds of things. You know, since I got to Lvov 2 weeks ago, I've heard people tell me all kinds of things, and a lot of it is simply not true. So why should I believe what anybody says? I don't disbelieve what people tell me here, but I don't necessarily believe it either. I say, okay, could be true, may not be true. But I try to just keep an open mind with everything I hear. It's a little bit problematic. But in that way, I kind of save myself a little bit. But I tend not to believe what people tell me. And it's not that I'm accusing a person of lying. It's just that sometimes people give misinformation. They say things that turn out not to be true. And it's not because they're liars, it's just because at the time they did not have all the information to make the statement that they did. Okay? So be careful what you hear. Be careful what people tell you. We have an expression in America that talk is cheap. People can say anything. It's very easy to tell somebody something. But I base my opinions on people, on not what they say, but what they do. Does that make sense? You know, if a person says something and they do it, they get credibility. They move up on my credibility meter. If they say something and it doesn't work, they move down on my credibility meter. And everybody that I know is up and down on my credibility meter. Some people, I think, okay, what they say is probably very close to the truth. For other people, I don't listen to them at all, because they just talk and talk and talk, and I know people like that. I can't trust anything they say. But what you need to do is figure out who you can trust, who you can believe, figure out the source, and then kind of make your decision based on where this information is coming from. Does that make sense? And you guys are all pretty good at that, I think, okay?
So can I ask, what do you mean by phrase extreme language?
All right, extreme language, and this is basically the heart of cognitive therapy. And cognitive therapy, or cognitive psychology, basically is this. Your thoughts determine your behavior. Your thoughts determine your mood, okay? And so your thinking is what we try to change. When a person is sick mentally, and I'm going to guess that probably 15 to 20% of the population thinks in a way that is not healthy. If you can change the way a person sees the world, then you can change their behavior, you can change their mood. Now, when we talk about extreme language, give me an example of extreme language. Can somebody give me an example of extreme language? And we want to avoid that in critical thinking. There are certain words that you should not use, or you should reduce down.
For example, always,
Always. That's an extreme word.
never,
Never. I will never be good at anything. Impossible. Learning Russian is impossible. Okay?
promise,
Promise? Well, a promise is something you have to be very careful with. You should never promise something that you cannot deliver. A promise is almost like a sacred oath. If you break a promise to somebody, if I promise you that I'll meet you at 5 o'clock tomorrow, I need to be there. Even if, unless there's some horrible thing that happens, I will be there. If you break a promise, then you lose credibility. That's the quickest way to lose credibility with someone, is to promise them something and then not deliver. Because they will never trust you again. If you break a promise, they'll never believe you. And if they don't believe you, they will never feel safe with you. What we want to do is feel safe with all the people around us. And if they don't tell us the truth, we can't feel safe with them. We can't. We can't trust them. We can't share our problems with them. So extreme language would be words like, nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. I'll never get a good job. Ukraine will never be a good country. Okay? We want to get rid of those words and replace them with words that are less extreme. Like Ukraine has some problems. Someday it will probably be better. Okay? If we use extreme language, then we start falling into extreme holes. So we want to change the language that we use, because that will determine our mood and our feelings, okay? So let's avoid extreme language. There are two problems. What are the two problems in any situation? The two problems in any given situation are what? Let's say you lose your job. There are two problems here. The first problem is you lost your job, right? The second problem is
Get another one.
No, what's your...
how you think about it. How you think about losing your job.
regret or not regret.
What? What did you say? Yeah, you said something.
Either regret or not.
Okay. Yeah, the first problem is you lose your job. That is, that's the problem. But what gets people in trouble is not losing their job. It's how they think about losing their job. Because I was in a situation once where two people in our company lost their job. It was me and somebody else. All right. I went home and said, hey, I lost a job. It's okay. I can find another one. I didn't like the job anyway. Where the other person went into a panic. What am I going to do? I'll never get another job. Okay? So there's always two problems. There's the problem and how we think about the problem. And I will tell you this, how we think about the problem is the biggest problem. It's not the problem itself. It's how we internalize that situation. Okay? That is the basis of cognitive therapy. How are we doing for time? What time is it now, by the way, anyway?
It's time to finish.
Well, okay, because I only got about a little bit through the slideshow. You know, the attribution is another big thing that we do. What our brain is trying to do here is it's trying to figure out why somebody does something, okay? We're always trying to explain somebody's behavior, okay? And I don't necessarily want to go into this, but you know, someday I think I would like to do a presentation on biases. Because we are programmed. These biases are like internal programs inside of us. And can anybody give me a bias? Can anybody tell me about a certain bias that we have? Some biases. Can anybody name a bias? There's about 200 of them, by the way.
Can you explain what it means?
A bias is a preconceived idea about something. For example,
Stereotype?
well, it's a little bit in that direction. I'll give you an example of a bias. Here's what we call the impact bias. Impact bias is basically that we think that a future event will have a better impact on us than it really does. For example, people who think if they win the lottery, that they will be very, very happy. That is their thinking. If I win the lottery, I will be very, very happy. It will change my life forever. The reality is that when people win the lottery, they're happy for 1 or 2 years. And then their happiness level goes right back down to where it was before they won the lottery. They think if I get married, if I find the right person, I will be happy. Well, they get married, and they may be happy for a while, but then their happiness level goes back down. So future events do not affect us as much as we think they will, okay? That's impact bias. But what I'd like to do is maybe talk about biases at another time, because there are a lot of them, and I need to go through these well. But let me ask you this. Do you guys have any other questions about thinking and how to think a bit more clearly? What are some of the things that you might do to think a little bit more clearly? Anything?
Try to see like different sides of the situation.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah, try to see a situation from a different angle.
to think outside the box.
Thinking outside the box. Being creative. Okay. Other questions that you guys have, and by the way, what are we going to talk about next week? What's our topic? And are we going to have a class next week? The next?
Next week is the next one. Next one is the second one, yes, we're going to have next.
All right, yeah, because we're thinking about there might be, now, wait a second, today is a celebration day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Soviet Army Day, right? Everybody should buy me a beer, okay? I know nothing about the Soviet Army. So it's a holiday today, but I got a few messages on V-Contact. I'm wondering why these messages were sent, and I figured it out eventually. You know, guys, I'm trying to figure out exactly how to run this class, what to do, what you guys need. What do you guys need to be happier, more successful? What do you need? What would you need?
Happiness.
Yeah. I mean, something that we can do, something we can talk about that might help you in your personal life.
About keep of my brain.
Keep your brain? You need to keep your brain. That's it.
Yes.
I mean,
About any interesting information about opinion, about people, about so I take many things.
okay. Well, let me ask you this, guys. What? Go ahead.
For example, how to argue to people.
I know how to argue.
Yes, we know how to argue.
Okay. Yeah.
How to stand in your positions. How to
Okay.
feel safe.
So self-confident when
Yeah.
the circumstances are not the way.
Yeah. I think
How
that.
always to win the battle between
Well, first of all, you've got to be careful with winning, because you have to acknowledge that maybe your position isn't always the right one, and I kind of
Yes.
talked to you about that. But the best way to win any argument is to know a lot about what you're arguing about. If you have the material, if you have the proof, if you know what you're talking about, and you have the facts to back it up, chances are you're going to do well. Now, I think what you might be talking about also would be debating and public speaking. How does public speaking sound to you guys? What about doing some public speaking? I can teach you about public speaking. Is that okay?
Yes.
I can give you, and maybe we can do that next week. The other thing that we want to talk about is happiness. How to be happier.
We are.
You're pretty happy. I know you're happy because you had a very nice piece of cake. Okay, I'd be happy too if I could eat that. But what else do you guys want to talk about in this class? Because I'm open to anything.
Controlling emotions.
Well, damn it, I don't. Oh, sorry.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes. I've got a weird sense of humor here. I scared myself. Okay, controlling emotions. I think we can talk about emotions in general. Anger. All of the emotions. And remember, emotions are either pleasant or unpleasant. There's no such thing as a neutral emotion. But there's a lot of argument and disagreement over how many emotions we actually have. There's primary emotions and secondary emotions. And some emotions are a little bit obscure, like the emotion of disgust. A lot of people do not say disgust is an emotion. Or guilt or shame. Some people say those are not emotions, they're feelings. And just to be able to separate feelings from emotions can be very difficult. Okay? So, but we can talk about emotions and how to control anger. I didn't mean to scare you, but you know, sometimes I do stupid things. Okay? But yeah, emotions, being able to regulate your emotions, and a lot of that also is cognitive therapy. It's just changing your thinking a little bit, and if you can just change the way you think, your emotions change a little bit, and also just this, what we call internal talk, the messages we send to ourselves. And 24 hours a day, our brain is working, we're talking to ourselves, it's called thinking, by the way, and it's the messages we send to ourselves all the time that will influence the person we are, okay? So we want to be able to send good, healthy, positive messages. And they should be realistic. We don't want to be too hard on ourselves. A lot of people are too hard on themselves. They self-criticize too much. We shouldn't do that. So public speaking, happiness, controlling emotions, all of those would be very good topics. And what I want to be able to do is get you guys talking more, because this is a discussion group. It's not Jimmy Hill telling you what to do. All right? Because you guys know as much about this as I do. The only difference is I speak English as my primary language, okay? If you guys spoke English as well as I did, and I don't speak English that well, you guys would be able to run these groups too. And if anybody wants to run a group here, you're welcome to run a group. You might have something really important to share, and I would love to be a student too. So if anybody wants to take over, then you're welcome. But I'm here to help you guys and listen to you, and hopefully we can grow and learn together. And just give me a chance, and we'll make some progress together. Okay? So, all right. Does anybody know the time?
This is 5:40.
All right. So I need to get moving because I have another class, but. I don't know. Now, some of you guys came from me. Some of you guys are AmES students. I don't know what
We're making the list.
All right, yeah, I don't know what the situation regarding. You might have to. Okay, but anyway, we'll figure it out. Okay, and just take care of yourselves. And next week, should we agree on public speaking? You want to do public speaking?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right, and I may ask you guys to do a little public speaking next week. Okay. All right. So, All right, I'll see you guys next week. Thank you for coming and stay dry.
Please, if you need to put your name on the list, please do that,
Документ селёчки.
Ваня, ты разбрасывал свои бусинки. Вот и
Video
еще
on
там
our
внизу.
website and also in contact page, you know, it's like AmES group. Yeah, AmES group, AmES. Okay, it's in place,
What is your name again?
Do you remember me?
Well, your face looks very familiar. What is your email? Oh, yeah, I met you you were the one that was with your friend, and we met in the old town, and I think you're studying business, or you wanted to go to Germany or something, or? Yeah, gotcha, yeah, I remember that. I just wanted to make sure, I thank you for coming.
Great, I'll come next week.
Well, and you come whenever you want, and whenever you want, and I'm here for everybody. I'm just here to try to share my knowledge. We're being filmed. I hope they cut this part out. Okay, go away.
It's working?
I guess so. I don't know. I think Arthur is probably smart enough to take this part out. Right, Arthur? I don't know. But hopefully they won't have this part on. But I think this is the last one we're going to take. The rest of it we won't take.
Yeah, so I just count the.
But that's okay. No, it's all right. It's just
You gave me a call.
you are a motivated person.
I
You
read
are
when I saw you.
obviously.
No, I'm not sure about this.
No, you are. I wouldn't come if I didn't have to, but no, you're doing well, and I think you're doing so far in life. You have a no, don't say that.
Don't say that.
No, because you're here. I mean, you're not lazy. Don't worry. I will help you. You'll probably end up helping me. In the end, you'll probably end up helping me. Yeah, we are starting those on the 4th. Yeah, hopefully, it's a little disorganized. But we will meet up at the university and then find a classroom. Michael Walensky is the one organizing. It's a very good price, by the way. It's really good.
So I should ask the guy?
Yeah, I would go up to that room, that I think it's 434, and there's a secretary there, she should know all the information. And you can pay them, I'm doing editing for them, and because they can't officially pay me because I'm not or I'll probably say, now we got you. But they can't officially pay me, so they're doing this for me. I do editing, proofreading for the books, audio recordings, and then they do this for me. That's the trade. But you are an amazing person. You are amazing. I feel it. I feel it. No.
Світло.
Ці відео кудись попадають?
Там у нас на цьому.
Ти що, не бачила? Ти не бачила відео?
Дай, 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 дай,